So you found a subject that you want to know more about, that you want to study in your bachelor's or in your master's, and you're also thinking maybe it would be nice to explore a new city, to experience living in a different country. Well, this is what studying abroad is about, and today we'd like to have a quick run through of all of the challenges you might face on your way there, things to consider, questions to ask yourself, and step by step what the process looks like if you decide to study in a different country. So let's begin. Quick disclaimer, I'm talking out of experience. I am not a career consultant. Also, where you study abroad depends largely on where your program is offered. So for some programs, maybe it's not as flexible. You cannot really choose any country. In my case, I applied for digital marketing, and digital marketing is offered worldwide, kind of. And I think this is the case with many programs, but there are also other ones that are not as widely offered as digital marketing or project management or finance and stuff like that. So I'm talking out of experience here, and I hope my experience will help you. The first challenge you'll face is, of course, deciding on which university to apply to, or universities, of course, and which countries you are interested in. I mean, there are so many options out there. Of course, there are some programs that have more options and some that have less, but in general, there are a lot of options on planet Earth, and it can be hard to decide. So it's good to narrow your results or options kind of down by asking yourself certain questions. For example, how expensive is the country, is living in a country? What are the salaries there maybe? Will I be able to get a job there if you need to finance your studies yourself? What language is spoken in a country? Will I need to learn it, or do I speak it already? Or also, can I imagine living there in the future after my studies? Do I need a visa for this country is also a very relevant question. So in my case, for example, even though I'm living in the European Union right now in Berlin, I still need a visa for Dublin because I'm a Russian citizen, and it took some research to find that out, and I did not expect that. So it's important you research if you really need a visa for this country. If you're a European Union citizen, in a lot of cases you're fine, but also you need to research if you would need a visa to stay there for a longer period of time, like a master's duration, like 1 year, 2 years, or even like 3 to 4 years for a bachelor's. The second challenge I would say is you will face a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of calling visa offices, maybe if you need a visa, or calling your bank, clarifying things, transferring money abroad, and maybe subletting your own apartment if you're only leaving for a year and will come back eventually. Finding accommodation, preparing the documents, budgeting, calling people all the time, writing emails, waiting for responses, getting used to application portals. There is a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of back and forth that will probably come your way, so just be prepared. It's nothing too scary, it just can be a bit annoying if people aren't answering, and you need to know because you have to let this other person know, and it's sometimes a bit complicated, but I'm sure you'll get through it with the help of Google and with the help of calling people and actually asking them. After you have done your fair bit of research about the program, have maybe chosen 5 to 10 universities for now, you can narrow it down further by researching scholarship options, bursaries, loans, figuring out how you can afford this financially. So living expenses, rent, and tuition fee. So even if, for example, in Germany, the tuition fee is basically nothing for the state-funded universities, you still have to support yourself, pay rent, have living costs and amenities and everything like that. And bureaucratic things, registration fees, so you have to be prepared financially for that as well. And this is, I would say, challenge number 3. Figuring out the whole funding situation, applying for bursaries or loans if that applies to you, or figuring things out with your family maybe if they are sponsoring you, and also researching maybe what part-time jobs you could do to finance your living expenses if that applies to you, if you need that financial security other than paying for the tuition fees. Like that. So after you've researched the scholarship options, job options, living costs, prices, everything like that connected to finances, you can probably narrow down the list of your 10 universities to 5 or 6. It all depends. You can narrow it down by just looking at, well, what are the odds that I'll get a scholarship there? What are the odds I can afford living there? Is it a cheaper country compared to other countries and stuff like that? For example, the scholarship options can vary tremendously. There might be one scholarship for your program, and at another university there might be 5. So that is much better than one. Maybe you could try applying to this university and try getting the scholarship instead of the other university. Another hurdle you might face if you're not an English native speaker, and I'm talking about English because I have applied to UK and Ireland universities, is you will have to take an English language test. I took IELTS, for example. Check out my video on IELTS. It was also work. You had to prepare and pass the test, and it can be a bit stressful, so I would also suggest you plan in advance and make a study plan for yourself. It's only one step to get out of the way, so just prepare and you'll be great. Of course, if you're applying to Germany or Poland or the Netherlands and the program is in Polish or in German or in Dutch, then you would have to, know what the level of Dutch or German or Polish is required for you to get in, and then prepare for these tests as well, which might take longer than maybe preparing for an English test. If German is, for example, a new language for you, maybe you can think about postponing your studies for another year or for a few months so that you have enough time to prepare. The next challenge I faced was writing my personal statement. Some universities do require it, some don't. I'm talking about UK and Ireland here. So most universities do require you to write a personal statement for your master's. And honestly, I wrote and rewrote my personal statement a couple of times, and I also find it very important to have a few pairs of eyes look at it and give you feedback. I think 2 people read my personal statement and gave me feedback, and then I changed some things, and then I had my final statement. So next is your CV. It kind of connects to your personal statement. There you can just state what your life has been looking like academically and professionally. Let me tell you about this next topic, which is recommendation letters. I have dreaded this part because for recommendation letters you have to probably ask your employer or ex-employer and your ex or current professor. You write them an email and you tell them what you're up to and ask them for the reference. I also met with my professor to explain the situation to him and why this is important to me. References or recommendation letters are very important, especially for the master's application. They can make or break your application for sure, in my opinion, and I think my references helped a lot put my best foot forward. This was the next challenge, and be prepared. Maybe think to yourself which people you could ask for recommendation letters. Maybe your bachelor thesis supervisor or your high school teacher, if that applies to you. Think about it. Next topic is again a financial one. I mentioned you have to figure out how you will finance your studies, and connecting to that, you'll have to show proof of your financial capabilities and how you will be financing your studies. For example, if you have a financial guarantor, so someone from your family, your father, your mother, helping you financially pay the tuition fees or for living expenses or rent, then you can get a financial guarantor letter or sponsorship letter from them for your application to the university. So that is also something to take care of before you apply. Next, you want to gather all of the documents you've prepared and go to the university's application portals, upload it there, and also pay the application fee. Yes, for most applications you also have to pay an application fee, which can be a bit annoying, especially if you're applying for 5 universities, but I can also understand it because the university has to process your application, of course, and they get a lot of them. Do it, but it's good to have, like, for example, 5 universities instead of 10 you're applying to, because you'll have to pay for every application you send out. I applied to 4 to 5 universities and I paid around €60 for each of the applications. Next is basically a waiting game. You're just waiting for the universities to come back to you and give you your offer or your rejection or whatever it might be, and you just have to trust that it will work out, kind of, and just live your life, continue to learn things, do things, work, study, whatever, until you hear back from them. And this is what you can control, your attitude in this time. So I also tried not to stress too much while waiting for my offers and just trusting that I did all I could. And that's the most important thing. Hopefully you will get an offer or maybe a few offers, and you'll have to choose which university to go for. For that, of course, I advise you to look at the modules, look at which program sounds more engaging, more interesting for your needs. So yeah, and then you can accept the place and decline the rest if you have a few offers. That's it with the application process for the university. Next is applying for a visa if you need one. So you probably already would have a lot of the documents you need for a visa, like bank statements, a financial guarantor letter, stuff like that, prepared, but you might also need some additional documents to prepare for your visa application. Apply for the visa. You might be living without an ID for a few weeks or months. So do apply for visa as soon as is possible, as soon as you can, as soon as is allowed. For me, it was 3 months before the term begins. So you're waiting for your visa, you already have a place at this university that you applied to in a different country. What do you do now? Like, what are the next steps? Because you're kind of in this weird period where you kind of know it's happening, but it's kind of also not quite yet because you're not sure if you can go because of the visa. If you don't need a visa, that might save you a lot of hassle, of course. What's next? You should for sure start looking for accommodation right away. So start looking for apartments, flat shares, student apartments, stuff like that, and applying for everything you see. It of course also depends on the city, on the country, how tough the market is. But for example, in Ireland, it's so tough. So I applied for months and months, 2 months, 2.5 months, and basically received almost no replies and got something finally now, but it took a lot of effort. So I would definitely recommend to just start early and a few hours a week, just apply and see what's out there, see what's possible, see what the prices are. For applying for accommodation, especially private accommodation, you'll probably also need a landlord reference. If you don't have a landlord reference, you can also have employer references or something from your parents, of course, if you're living with your parents and you've been living with your parents for your whole life. Also, you'll need financial guarantor documents if your parents are paying for your rent, or if you only have your savings or a part-time job, and the landlord might need some additional security that you will make rent even if you lose your job. So that might be also something to consider. If you have your parents supporting you, then get the financial guarantor documents in place as well. Then you need to pack. Of course, think about what you might need. Declutter a lot. I have a declutter template that I'll list in the description below. I have gotten rid of a lot of things during the past months leading up to my move. I still have a long way to go and I will need to tackle it step by step, but it is helpful to also start as early as possible. So even before you get a visa, you can already start decluttering your closet, for example, some things you don't need, things like that. So very, very useful, and link is in the comments below to my template that I use to declutter. You can also think about mailing some things in boxes to your country of destination. So for example, your winter coat, if it's summer, and if you don't want to put it into your luggage because it is very bulky, then you might want to ship it there. I think that's a good idea for some things, to ship them, if it's not too expensive, of course. This video took me a long time to film. I did not expect it to take this long, but I hope it was helpful and that you kind of know what is expecting you more now. And if you decided to study abroad, I'm sure it's a good idea. I will see how my study abroad experience will be, but I am very hopeful and very excited. And you can follow my journey on this YouTube channel. I will be talking about studying in Dublin and my life there, vlogging a bit and learning a lot, exploring Ireland, working, studying, and everything in between, meeting new people. So I'm very excited, and I will share this journey with you. So if you have any questions about studying abroad, moving to Ireland, anything like that, then do leave a question in the comments below. I'll try to answer, or I'll make a video about it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope this was insightful, and see you next time. Bye bye.